excited for our talks tonight? Well, I'm very excited to bring up our first speaker. We have Iris Berkeley. Iris got her start on air at CU Boulder's predecessor to Radio 1190, KUCB, back in 1998 as a journalism student. After a 25 career spanning music criticism, news editorial, marketing, multimedia production, and user experience, she returned to her first love as Radio 1190's general manager in 2024. Iris continues to take the airwaves on Radio 1190, Boulder's KGNU FM, as a producer of Modern Jet Set, a weekly music discovery show airing on nearly 100 stations worldwide, plus playing records at home for 3 extremely musically literate cats. Everybody give it up for Iris.
It's so different when I can see people talking to. There's a lot of you. Okay. Anyway, my name is Iris Berkeley. I am the general manager of KBCU Radio 1190, the University of Colorado's student radio station, and I'm delighted to come at you as an emissary of the zombie undead. That is not my official title. Technically, I am the general manager of KBCU Radio 1190. We are the official student-run radio station of the University of Colorado Boulder. You can hear us on 1190 AM in Boulder, 92.9 FM in Denver, streaming worldwide at 1190.radio, and who the hell even cares? Because be honest. Let me ask you a question. I can't entirely see you, but so wave frantically. How many of you actually listen to your car radio? Wow! I mean, I'm not even asking how many of you listen to Radio 1190. I mean, radio period, but wow, that's so much more than I thought so. But, and why was I kind of surprised? Because radio sucks, right? Life is short. Why would you listen to crap that you don't like? I want to prove this to you with some science, because I'm an expert in the field or whatever, so I did whatever any respectable expert would do to demonstrate a point of total objectivity, which is to go find an appropriate meme on Reddit. Note, the slices in this highly accurate pie chart have been rounded to the nearest tenth of a percent, which accounts for white cats fighting, tends to overrepresent slavery. All right, let's talk about the Denver area radio market for a second. There are about 40 stations of note on our terrestrial broadcast dial these days. One of the big reasons why most of them suck is because most of them are owned by giant national chains who care more about profit than about people. Whether there's people that like their employees, or their DJs, or their listeners. So let's run through the biggest offenders real quick. Okay, first up, these assholes. Okay, so those of you who have some extra in your cans, can we pour one out for Brett Saunders?
Yeah!
Who after 30 fucking years got dumped by iHeartRadio on Tuesday. They own 9 stations in the Denver market. You got Odyssey, they own 4 stations. They also happen to just go bankrupt, there's that. You got Bonneville International, which is weirdly owned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is an interesting content decision. These guys, Kroger, or Cressy, Craggy, yeah, they got Ticketmaster. It's bad news. And then Entrevision, they've got 3 stations, mainly Spanish language. It's this is how this works. One quick note, when you're a giant media conglomerate and you own a bunch of stations in the market, the technical industry term of art for that group of stations is a cluster. I'm just gonna put that out there. All right, so a lot of us, especially for a certain age, grew up thinking that radio was something that was super cool. People who were locally famous got to play whatever they wanted and you got to hear it. And the station that you listened to said important things about who you were and what you were about. And for a long time it used to be that way. Remember You could call the DJ in the middle of the night and like request a song for your girlfriend, and it shout your name out on the air, and you like really felt like you were part of something. And then that changed. So in 1996, the Federal Telecommunications Act made it a whole lot easier for great big national corporations like the ones we just saw to own a bunch of stations and do a bunch of profit-motivated, sketchy shit. Now, like, okay, sorry. Since I'm usually on the air, I get really excited when I get to swear in front of people. Okay, so as time went on, we gradually started hearing less and less Johnny Fever and more Fever Dream. So like, unless you were on the air in like a non-corporate station who really stuck to their guns, you started getting more and more guidelines about what you were allowed to play and when. And the thing on the right there is called a broadcast clock, and it's horrible. Like, it pretty much runs the show in radio these days. Let me show you like a worse example, okay? This monstrosity, it's called a clock wheel. It's from a blog by a guy who specializes in optimizing Christian radio stations, whatever that even means. So if you look at that, there's 15 songs in an hour. Does not leave any room for long songs, which sucks. And there aren't any slices, if you notice in that pie, that say DJ choice. They're all category songs, which are all getting pulled algorithmically from what's called an automation system. And you've got some central music director somewhere, and they decide what goes in each of those categories. And the clock wheel just keeps on turning. And that's pretty typical, with very few exceptions. Most DJs in our market here in Denver are super lucky if you get to choose one song an hour. Like, even on some of the non-commercial stations, Indy, I'm looking at you. But speaking of commercials, one thing that's actually pretty okay about this clock wheel is there's only two things that say stop set, and that's where the ads go. That's the only good thing about this. And then there's this. Like, remember that part where you would like call up the DJ in the middle of the night and request a song? That can't happen if the DJ isn't live in the studio, and it really can't happen if it's like this guy. Actually, I think he works for Google. I just stole this from the internet. Recorded it, like 2 days before in their home studio, in their closet in another city. Like, there's a reason why these guys just like don't get on the air and go on and on about the weather anymore, because it's not their weather. It's so weird. Okay, so does anybody in here listen to the Dana Cortez show? It's the weekday morning show on KS 107.5. Live, local, and in your mornings. Yeah, I remember when this used to be, KS 104. I don't know, does anybody remember those days? Anyway, it's also the same thing on all of those other stations around the country. Live, local, and in your mornings. I was gonna look up what cities those belong to, but I just got really sad and then I wanted to drink. All right, it gets worse. At least Dana Cortez is like a real human being. This monstrosity happened in April, the big trade show for the National Association of Broadcasters. NPO Systems upgrades its DJ replacement technology with upcoming release. Okay, if a quote-unquote modern broadcast environment includes replacing human voices with AI agents, then like, good hanging out in the dark ages, right? And that's like not even our biggest problem, guys. Our one thing that set radio apart, the one thing that made it really special, just like isn't anymore, but like, bear with me for a second while we go back in time and think about this, okay? Right now, we are all literally bathing in the waves, not only of Radio 1190's Denver signal at 92.9 FM, but those other 40 odd stations. So it's like throwing their content out in the airwaves right here, right now. I'm not saying they're good, but they're there. Like, let that roll around in your head or like in every single cell of your body. Can you feel that? Like moving through your body right now? It's kind of insane. It's also completely meaningless because of this, right? This chart came out at the end of April from an industry survey from a firm called Jacobs Media. And it shows how many people listen to our stations on old school AM and FM versus online. And if this trend keeps up, we're gonna cross the streams in the next year or two. So like, as much fun as I have every time I drive down I-25, I'm like, look, that's our tower! Can you see our tower? It's blinking. Like, that doesn't actually mean anything anymore. There's this saying, does anybody do UX out there? Maybe like a UX person, user experience? There's a saying that says, he who controls the menu controls the choices. So like in the old days, if you had an AM or an FM signal, that was a really big deal because like there were a finite number of channels out there. It doesn't matter what you played, people had to listen to it anyway. Except now we have an internet that's not true anymore. Like, simply put, there is no menu. So the concept of broadcasting is largely meaningless. So yeah, there's no sliding it, right? Radio as we know is dead, and Radio 1190 almost died with it. Maybe though, maybe you remember our old glory days, right? We got started in 1978. Things didn't really take off until we got our AM signal in 1998. But by that point, we'd already won. I love this. And this is the thing I'm most proud of on our awards wall. Westward gave us the Best of Denver for best radio station you can hardly hear, which I love. So like, and the hits kept coming. Like, we were a big part of Boulder and Denver for a long time. Like, maybe you've still got a local shakedown CD on your bookshelf. Or maybe you've got a Watt owner discount card in your wallet. I think it still works at Wax Trax. Let me know if it does. But like every other radio station, like the market got worse and harder for us. And so by the time of the pandemic, we were just kind of limping along, and we didn't have a general manager. There wasn't anyone in my job. We didn't have an engineer, and all the students who knew how to like do stuff, like kept graduating, and the lore left with them. And then so in about March of 2022, the station got a phone call from a Federal Communications Commission inspector asking about a violation that we've been committing for like 7 years. And not only did nobody know this was happening, like we had no answer for her. And so that got the university's attention as like a federal inspector knocking on your door will do. And so we got permission to hire an engineer to check everything out. What we learned was like really, really bad, okay? To get back into the FCC's good books, we were gonna have to stop broadcasting until we fixed all our problems. So in May of 2022, our new engineer drove 6 miles south of Boulder to our transmitter shack, which had somehow not burned to the ground in the Marshall Fire like 6 months earlier, unlocked the door, and turned off the transmitter. Radio 1190 had been on the air in some form or another since 1978. Tens of thousands of students had been on our airwaves, including a whole bunch who actually went in to do broadcasting for a living. But it really seemed like we were equipped for good this time. So, we refused to admit defeat. We got on our collective ass. The FCC doesn't like it when I say ass, into gear, okay? So like, I quit my fancy pants day job to cosplay as general manager before like the university even knew who I was. Eric, our engineer, who's over there in the front row in like that white shirt, he basically moved into the transmitter shack for like a year. And if you want to talk about engineering, he can blind you the fuck with science at the after party. So you'll find him. And so on February 16th, 2023, we went back on the air after a year of being online only. That was the hard footage for that day. We look really tired. I'm not gonna say that we were raised from the dead, but it was pretty damn close, right? And so fast forward to today, we got nearly 200 students involved in one way or another, whether that's hosting more than 95 eclectic music shows that we've got on the air every week, or working on stories for our 40+ person news team. They pulled in more than 60 awards last academic year, or creating content for social media, or tabling at events and concerts. We were at the Fox last week, if you happen to be up in Boulder. I know Boulder's a dirty word around here. Or giving away one of the 200 or so concert tickets we gave away just this year. You can do this too, Radio 1190, 1190.radio/ticket club. And then in January, we moved into brand new studios. Totally renovated, big enough to hold 26,000 CDs, 15,000 vinyl records, and that was through all the support, CU Boulder, some incredible local big ticket donors, and as they say in the business, listeners like you. But like, okay, all right, I'm trying to impress you, who cares? Again, right? So if radio is dead, why bother? Well, like, once you get back, you peel back all those layers of like what a radio station's product used to be way back in the 70s or the 80s, you get to walk into your studio, look at everything with fresh eyes and say, what are we here for? Let's be real. If your favorite preset on your dial just like wasn't there one morning when you got in your car, you'd be sad, but you'd survive. Because like we live in an age where anybody can listen to anything by any artist pretty much anywhere, anytime. And when you run out of songs by that artist, you're probably gonna get a pretty not terrible playlist that like a couple hundred lines of code mathed up for you. But like, okay. To mix a whole bunch of metaphors, do we really want to spend our one rare and precious life staring into the machine like that? Do we? Yeah. No! Okay, those of you who came here from work today, think about what you did at the office, and like think about what you didn't do. And in 2026, everything is monetized and measured and focus grouped and overclocked and organized to within like a half an inch of his life. We have been told that we are all here to hustle and quantify and gamify or be eaten alive, and that's bullshit. Yeah. Maybe you're different than that. Maybe you don't really want to be that way. I can say that for my 200 students who take the brave move of bucking that trend of inauthenticity and automation and going to our studios once a week and connecting with listeners who need them. And that is why homegrown radio is still very much alive, very vital. It's magic, it's connection. In an age where everybody is telling us every single damn day that magic and communication and connection don't matter. Examples. I'll start with kind of a goofy one. Earl the Sweet talked about my own show. It goes out to about 100 stations. As I was putting the slide deck together, I got an email who listened to one of my shows, apparently in WUTC in Chattanooga, and judging from his email address, he's probably about 77 years old, and he says, quote, I don't always like some of the music, but don't stop what you're doing. And what we play is challenging a guy who's pushing 80, like, that's not happening in AI land. Next story. Last summer, a high school student came by for a tour because she thought she might want to be a journalism major, and she ended up playing her crush's favorite song on the air. And then she asked live if she'd like to go steady, and she gave out our phone number for her calling her answer. And I do not think I've ever held my breath for that long in my entire life. Spoiler alert, she said yes. They're still together. We also hid for a whole week from my student promotions director that their boyfriend was going to gate crash their show and propose live in the studio. This time, at least, I was pretty sure the answer was going to be yes. They're still together. And then there was a time a few years back that a middle-aged dude showed up, like unannounced, with his daughter. He was like 5 years old. Turns out he wanted to show around the station because he'd been music director there as a student in the early 90s. And also he had stage 4 cancer, and he wanted to make sure his daughter got to walk around with her dad in the place that he had told her so much about. Jason Mueller passed away early this year. I'm gonna cry, but not before we all got to become friends after a whole bunch of hours in our old studios, and I only wish he could see our new place. But sometimes you can't go home again, because like station alums, they come back all the time. Like it's basically a never-ending class reunion at this point. This was a few weeks ago. 2 of our 90s directors stopped by to see the new space. The woman on the front right there, her name's Lisa, and you might know her as Worst Worry. She brought us a copy of her new single on vinyl, and those 2 weirdos in the background. That's DJ Bodie of Party With Me Punker, which is Wednesdays, and DJ Desjardins of Themed Adult Contemporary, if you were familiar with any of our programs. And they just put a record on right there. And then, because like once you're family, you are always family. And then there's this nerd, right? My very first experience on the air was in 1998. It was a Saturday morning. I'm standing in a dining hall in a line, and this guy's trying to impress me. He's like, hey, baby, I've got a radio show. And like, I had zero interest in the guy, but I'm like, tell me more about the radio show. Right? And by the end of the semester, I was on air, and I was hooked. And that was it. And almost 30 years later, I get to be the caretaker of this crazy joint. Because it's basically like the Hotel California, except that's actually like a bad analogy, because I really don't want you to play the Eagles on my radio station. But once 1190 sinks its teeth in you, there's not a lot of looking back. And so like every time some big name university administrator comes along, like, okay, so is anybody in this room running for CU Board of Regents right now? No. Okay, good. Anytime anybody says, why should I be spending money on this thing? Like, I'm really lucky. I basically just get to be Willy Wonka. I get to say like, hey, come down to the station and let me show you a room full of CDs and like, let me play your favorite band on the radio, and then you can ask me that question again. Because when it comes down to it, in 2026, a radio station isn't like a preset on your dial. It's like a makerspace and a community center and an innovation lab that just like happens to have an FCC license. It's where about 200 people of all ages get together and make stuff and share it out with the listeners and come back the next day and do it again. And these guys have, that's my posse, they're so great. They've got a channel for communication and connection and friendship in a time when like people are craving authenticity and community more than at any other point in our collective history. And anytime you tune in, you get to hear that as a result. All of us can get perfectly polished AI nonsense anytime. But like when one of my rookie DJs goes on air and like swears and fortunately remembers to hit the button, or like runs 2.5 seconds of like Limu, Emu, and Doug because like they're running something off YouTube, even though I'm like, dude, don't do that. You know what that is? Like, that's a real human. That guy's name's John. If he knew I was using that picture, he'd be so mad. And they're like making relatable mistakes, and they're letting us tag along as they learn to do something that's gonna stick with them the rest of their lives. Like maybe they won't be like a professional music host or like morning edition host. Like who the fuck cares? No matter what they do, they're gonna be able to do it like with polish. They're gonna be able to think on their feet. They're gonna be able to problem solve on the fly, and they're gonna be able to encourage everybody around them, no matter what hits the fan, truthfully. These folks are gonna do all the things in the company of people who turn into friends or roommates or partners, and if they're lucky, and if I'm lucky, we'll know each other for the rest of our lives. And at the same time we do all of this, we get to make podcasts and put on concerts and talk to fans and play our favorite music on the air for all sorts of people. For strangers like you guys who might even become our friends. So if radio is dead, I, for one, am pretty happy to be among the zombie class. Long live radio.
I'll let you keep the nice microphone. There's a trend happening of me being more accepting of people taking the nice microphone. I'm growing. That's what I'm trying to say. How about that presentation? I always get the luxury of starting off questions. I am a huge music lover. How many CDs do you have?
26,000 CDs, 15,000 vinyl records, and about, how many do we have? Like 28,000 tracks in our library?
Yeah.
Yeah, in our digital library.
What is the most worn down? Like what CD is like, it is like on its last leg?
I mean, I'm not gonna talk about playing like Peter Gabriel myself 28,000 times. It's funny, I feel like every undergraduate strangely has a Fiona Apple phase.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I have thoughts.
Oh, I do too.
I'm worried if I give my thoughts though that people will be upset.
That's the thing, is you can play whatever you want. Like, we do not pass artistic judgment. It just has to not get us thrown off the air by the FCC.
Yeah. Peter Gabriel, Heroes?
Oh yeah. I was thinking like first solo album, like a weird shit.
Yeah. I like it. Now's the time that you guys get to ask questions. It looks like we have a few so far. Do you want to pick or do you want me to pick? And then once we pick, if you could repeat it, or I'll repeat it.
I'll answer it back.
Okay. How about you go? You pick.
Our history person.
Okay. If you were a student now, what kind of show do you think you'd run?
If I was a student now, I think I would actually, so my favorite show right now is this guy who does a show called Classic Rock Guided Meditation, which is neither of those things. Which is sort of a joke because I played a lot of like prog rock because it was the 90s and it was deeply uncool. And so he'll be like, all right, he'll just see like a lot of new releases, but then he'll be like, all right, next up we've got some Rush, and then there's never Rush. I think I would do that.
That's awesome. I saw one all the way in the back here. You're gonna have to shout a little bit. Yes.
What was your FCC violation?
So it wasn't anything super sexy, which I'm both very happy and a little bit sort of like ashamed of. It's kind of we got caught on a technicality. So AM radio, because of how like the earth works, AM radio gets louder at night. So during the day, our main AM signal broadcasts with 6,800 watts of pure unadulterated FM power. During the night, wow! Can you just like follow me around?
We can do that.
During the night, it's 120 watts, which is like way less than the light bulb at the top of the tower. But when I said that like people kept graduating and all the lore kept disappearing, so we forgot to turn down our power at night for like 7 years, and finally a station in Wyoming that like kept calling us to say cut that out, and then like no one answered the phone because no one worked there. They finally reported us, and then it was just like a cascade from there.
Whoa. There was one really excited hand in the back, and I pointed right next to him for the last one. Yes.
How does a radio station measure how many listeners it has?
How does a radio station measure how many listeners it has? So in some ways it's a very inexact science. There's a colloquial rule of thumb, a magic number that you multiply the number of streaming listeners by. That rule of thumb has historically been 40. I'm not sure if I believe that anymore because we're about to cross the streams. If you're in Denver, we're in what's called a portable people meter market, which means we do still get old-fashioned Nielsen ratings. I'm not going to tell you how much those cost. So it's a little bit of an inexact science unless you feel like buying Nielsen numbers, and even those aren't super accurate.
Well, we're going to do one more. Yes. Glasses.
So I know more about Nielsen than I know. Do you guys still have those little things that you make people wear, and it listens to the radio, and it reports back, and you get your numbers that way?
Can you repeat that?
I'm going to say yes, and in doing so, I will repeat what you just said. So in the very, very old days, maybe some of you actually had this happen to you at one point in your life. You got like an envelope from Nielsen in the mail, and it probably had like a $5 bill, and it was like writing down everything that you've watched on TV this week. That does not happen anymore. And actually, this is a phone app, because you know your phone is listening to you all the time anyway. So you get a little bit of money from Nielsen, and you install this portable people meter, not portable people eater, which I keep saying. And it listens to everything, all the sounds that surround you all day, and it listens for invisible watermarks in that music. So like there's an invisible subliminal message that says you're listening to KBCO or whatever, and it'll be like, ding, you listen to KBCO. And that's how that works. Only in big cities. Like smaller cities don't have that, but we're big enough to be a people eater market.
What's an invisible message?
It's, you can't hear it. It's just a watermark. It's just something, oh God, it's sort of like a dog whistle. And it basically just says, the identifying station. Yeah. I mean, maybe you think you can hear it, but also maybe then you think you can like see sounds and hear smells.
I won't deny it.
Anything else?
Give it up for Iris.